Since the election, his message hasn't shifted. It's not changed. He seems very focused on an agenda, on a goal, and maybe that's something when he was talking about the establishment in D.C. today in his inaugural address. Maybe he's saying we got to change how we do business here.
You know, Sean, there's one word that describes why the Trump movement is now in Washington, D.C. That's authenticity. Authenticity, right? Donald Trump is an authentic man. He's someone who believes what he says and says what he believes. And that's why he's the president. That's why Governor Pence is now the vice president.
Right.
And that's so amazing for someone like me. We're immigrants in this country, my family. We came here as Jewish refugees. And I'm so proud of everything that this country has done for us, but also what we've done for this country. So, and that's the give and take that's so vital to the American culture, to the American fabric. And Donald Trump understands that like no other. So I will tell you, sitting there today, seeing him become sworn in as President of the United States of America was a truly special moment.
It is Dr. Gorka, good to see you. I talk a lot about the economy and the bad shape it's in. President now mentioned today radical Islam in his inaugural speech, which was very different from what we've experienced the last 8 years. How is that message being received, considering you have made this a course of your study in life?
Everything's changed. When he used those three words today, radical Islamic terrorism, he put the marker down for the whole national security establishment.
Did they hear it?
Oh, yeah. Everybody heard it. In the intelligence community, in law enforcement, and most important of all, our allies and our enemies heard it. No more political correctness. We're not going to obfuscate. We're not going to rename it.
Does that mean that they want to accept the challenge, or does that mean they think they've got to be more careful and there will be consequences?
I think both. I think the guys inside the machine that I've had the honor of working with, the operators, who have just been shackled, who've been manacled, now realize, okay, now we can go to war because we can be truthful about who the enemy is. The people, especially at the top, the Brennans of the world, the people just below that, who have been the bag carriers for the administration, they are on notice. No more propaganda, no more twisting the truth. So for both audiences, he sent the new commander-in-chief made it unequivocal, Sean.
You know, I got at different times I thought, if I'm Barack Obama and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to radical Islamic terrorism, I'm listening to we're going to fix this, 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 and this. It's got to sting a little bit because the numbers, look, I can't name a place on this earth that's better off. If you want to talk about Libya, Benghazi, North Africa, the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Iran,
Asia,
China,
right? Africa, the Middle East, it's all on fire. The world is on fire.
Everything's worse, and everything economically is worse off.
Right, but now there's a new CEO, and there's a new sheriff, and there's a new commander-in-chief.
Because it's so bad to me, that provides opportunity. Hi, guys. All right. They're all having fun. And there is an opportunity. Is there optimism? You're in Cleveland.
You know what? There's optimism nationwide. Watch this. When I say this, I know you're going to agree with me. We get up every morning wondering, what's Donald Trump going to do today? What's President Trump going to say today? We run straight to Twitter. I wonder what he tweeted. And, you know, that's an attitude of excitement, expectation, and enthusiasm that's permeating America. Even his detractors, they don't want to admit it. But even his detractors get up every day wondering, what is he going to say? What is he going to do? And it's a good feeling.
It is a good feeling. How soon will he be tested on the national security front? It could be any day.
When you look at actors like North Korea, when you look at actors like Vladimir Putin, that are always, what have they been doing for the last decade, right? They've been untested. They're pushing. They're constantly prodding. So I would guess that those people that are not interested in really collaborating are going to test us, and they're going to test Donald Trump. So unfortunately, he's got to deal with that, but he's got an amazing team. You look at the team. I mean, it's just all-stars. General Mattis, Mike Flynn, General Kelly. We have the grown-ups in the building. There will be tests. There will be crises. But the adults are back, and they will deal with it.
All right.
Let me ask you this. Do you think they'll be less apt to test him now?
Yes. Yes. I mean, come on.
I think this is a serious Mattis and Mike Flynn.
The alpha males are back.
Trump, yeah.
Right? You don't challenge John Wayne, right?
They might be less apt to test him. They might try to...
Good to see you both. What a day.
What a day.
Hey, listen, I got to get Sean Hannity on point. He's supposed to come to my church and he didn't show up.
Whoa.
He stood me up.
No. I called you. I had to change the date. I did not call you?
You called.
I did.
No. But I had to try to put you on blast. You've been throwing Scaramucci under the bus every time he gets on.
You're trying to embarrass me on national television. I can't believe it.
He's got a word from God. He's going to be bringing it to Cleveland.
Thanks for making today possible. Everybody at Fox.
You did.
Everybody. We're all spokes in the wheel, and thank God we got a chance to take our country.
You did your share.
When we joining us now with reaction, former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort and the special assistant to President Trump, Boris Epshteyn, is with us. Guys, good to see you. And, you know, when you came on board, I mean, look, I remember early on there was 3 people, and then it slowly got bigger and bigger and bigger. You were confident from day one. I remember the first conversation we had. Why?
Because Donald Trump understood America. I mean, there was no question in my mind watching the crowds reacting to him, watching his message, that he had figured out that what the media was reporting on was the two coasts, but the great country, Main Street America, was suffering. He saw it. He knew it. And knowing Donald Trump the way I did, I knew that he would only get into something that he wanted to fully put himself into, and results would be all that mattered.
How did everybody else miss that? Because I do 3 hours of radio a day. I talk to people every day. I read economic statistics every day. How could anyone with a clear conscience or thought process think the Iran deal or the Russian reset went well?
Because this is the first election I've ever been a part of where the narrative was written before the race was run. And the media and the establishment didn't want to vary from their narrative, and they felt that because Trump was not a part of them, that of course he'd have no chance. It was the same arrogance that Trump talked about with Brexit, and he said would happen in November, and it did.
You know, I don't know if I can think of a moment in history where a movement has been this strong, this defined by a personality, as we've seen here, a guy that's never been in office before.
He was the most incredible candidate I've ever worked for. And I
tough days too?
In all ways, he was the most incredible candidate I ever worked for. But he believed in what he was doing.
Yeah.
And the reason that the media and the establishment and the whole system couldn't get to him is because he was confident that what he was doing was what the American people wanted.
You know, there were a couple of different points you and I stayed in touch when you were in the campaign, when you left the campaign. You never lost that confidence, and I remember talking to you about a week before the election. You were 100% confident, and you and I were going over the electoral map together in this state and that state, and you pretty much called it right. I had a little bit different of a map than you did. I had New Hampshire. I thought Colorado might be in play a little bit more, but the Rust Belt really came through because they're the people that suffered the most.
My concern Friday before the election was that people were not going to believe that we won when we won. And I started talking to people
I remember you said that too.
I started talking to people over the weekend saying, look, I know you can think I'm crazy, but let me go down the map with you guys because you're not going to like what you're going to hear, but it's going to happen on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And Trump was, the appeal he had in the Rust Belt, it was there. You could see it. The crowds were there. The response to his messages. People were paying no attention to that. And so when Hillary kept giving Trump the free ride in those states, for him to walk in and talk to them, it was all he needed to be. And plus,
I don't even know if it would have paid off if she did go.
Well, you know, she never understood that this was a change election. Yeah. And he did. And the American people did. And his speech today, well, you know, his inaugural speech today was right on message. I promise you.
You want to laugh at something. So I'm watching Chuck Todd today after he gives a speech, and he's bewildered. He can't figure out. We didn't know which Trump would show up. And I'm like, the same one that shows up at every other appearance for the last 2 years. What did you expect? All of a sudden he's going to become an establishment, person on day one? I don't think that's ever going to happen.
And that's why those people who criticize his speech today, they'll be criticizing everything he does.
Yeah.
Because they don't get it. They don't get the American people. They don't get Donald Trump. If they got one, they'd get the other because those two are in sync in this country.
Yeah.
And today he offered hope. And what he has done in the transition, which, the media was looking for him to vary from, he's been consistent.
Yeah.
He's done in the transition what he said he would do as a candidate, and he'll do as president.
It was funny because we had different opinions with Geraldo wanting to talk about the pageantry, and Ainsley was talking about the family. And what stood out to me is when he said, I will not let you down. And then he went through some of the promises and talked about Twitter, and then he said, should I stay on Twitter? The crowd said yes. Then he talked about securing the borders, not only making America great, greater than ever. And that's the person that I got to know when I interviewed him. Deep, solid conviction. I also saw a lot of growth in him in the year and a half through the campaign. I knew him beforehand. I watched him throughout the process, and I saw incredible growth and a trajectory, I think, as Newt Gingrich said, he'd never seen in politics before.
The trajectory is unbelievable. Besides understanding the American people, he understood how to speak to them. And the more he interacted with the people, the more it helped him, as you call, grow.
Yeah.
I mean, because he was drawing his strength.
Politics is an art, and the art of the deal is different than the art of political war, which he went through and learned fast. Paul, great job.
Great
to see you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, joining us is somebody I admired, an outspoken Hollywood mega superstar, probably one of my favorite actors of all time, and is such a good friend of mine, personal friend of mine. And unlike a lot of people that work out on the left coast, he was able to do something and step out alone by himself and talk about why he supports Donald Trump for president. John Voight, my friend. How are you, sir?
I'm just getting my
your ears in. How are you?
The last part of that was terrific.
It's great to see you.
It's great to see you, Sean.
I saw you with so many of these people. and the love that they showed for you, not only for your great acting ability, but the fact that you stood up for Donald Trump when so many in your profession would not.
Yeah. Well, I am getting a lot of love here.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm so happy here with all the things that the people are seeing on the television sets. Watching the parade today was an enormous thing for me.
Yeah, it was. By the way, also joining us is Corey Lewandowski. Good to see you. You look
Thank you.
Pretty good there, Corey. Former campaign manager. All right, so funny backstory. I was out there on the campaign trail when it was Donald J. Trump, you, and Hope Hicks.
All it was.
That's all it was for one.
He always says, he likes to say, Corey, it was 2 guys in a plane, and we had Hope too. And I thought that was pretty cool.
That was a pretty cool.
And look what's happened. The country has come alive.
Yeah.
Tens of millions of people have come out and said, no more Washington. Donald Trump's speech today was so clear, so concise. The power goes back to the people. It comes out of Washington and goes back to the people, and that is what the revolution is all about.
You know, Corey, early on in this process, you were not only confident, extraordinarily confident, he would go all the way. Very few people were where you were back at that time, and I know you, so I knew it was from your heart.
You know what happened? It's amazing now, John. You know this. We have a lot more friends today than we did just a few weeks and months ago, and everyone was the first supporter of Donald Trump ever. But the truth was, I believed in it because I heard him, and I sat with him for the very first time, and he said to me, I don't need to be the president. I'm going to have a great life whether I am or I'm not, but I want to change the country for my kids and my grandchildren and the generations after that, and we need to do better. And if you look at all the specifics that he has outlined on this campaign, that's what he has to go and start doing tomorrow and on Monday, and that's what the American people deserve.
But I would argue if he just follows through on that vision, and these are the things we've talked about. When did you come on board with Donald Trump? Do you remember?
I came on pretty early, Sean. I was fortunate. I had very good people around me, you being one of them, and I saw some things happening, and I knew we all felt so much needed to be done. And we were not above the understanding of the American people. American people knew that, a great majority knew we were going in the wrong direction. Something seriously had to be done.
I was telling this to Tucker Carlson. I call this the forgotten man, the forgotten woman election. He mentioned it today in his speech. You can't have 95 million Americans out of work. You can't have 50 million Americans in poverty, 43 million on food stamps. You cannot have the lowest home ownership rate in 51 years and double the debt in the process and say things are going well. And I think that was a big part of it. And he didn't mention himself much today.
These weren't statistics. These were real people.
Real people, real lives.
And if you went across the country, as I did at different times, you met these people. And if you really had your eyes open, you knew what was going to happen.
And I think that's where there's a disconnect totally in Washington. And I would argue, Corey, that maybe the biggest challenge is it's a night to celebrate tonight, but going forward that Donald Trump will face is this Republican establishment against him, Democratic establishment, media establishment, by the way, like CNN over there.
You know what it is? It's the political world that doesn't want change, right? They make a very good living by having no change. Whether that means, hey, we'll take a bill and we'll move it through and make sure it doesn't actually get done. That's not Donald Trump. And what he said was, what normally takes 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years, we're going to do in 6 days or 6 hours or 6 seconds. And you're going to see that with the executive orders he's going to sign. You're going to see it with this cabinet that's going to come in. He's going to empower these people to go and change the way Washington works. That includes saving hundreds of millions and billions of dollars on spending where we are getting killed as an American government because we don't negotiate.
Yeah, it was interesting in the last couple of weeks. I watched the Republicans, John, and they're talking about, let's advance the debt ceiling $9.7 trillion. And I'm like, what? And then they're talking about, well, maybe we'll bring earmarks back. And health care, well, maybe we'll do it within the next year. On each one of those issues, Trump said no, 10% cut.
That's right.
20% cut of the workforce.
Well, you can see he's got this way of dealing, and I don't understand it exactly. It's just a certain personality that he has, and I am in awe of it. He cuts right through to what is